have our guest ready, so we're going to head out to the hotline in 1 second after a quick word from FanDuel. The NBA Finals are in full swing, every night delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's an in-game winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel making it easy to stay in the game, both before tip-off and live. Game 4 tonight. They have player props, performance trends, same-game parlays available. If you're new to FanDuel, right now is the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets if you have a winning ticket. Please send it in to us. We want to feature it here on the show to show off some big-time FanDuel winners in the coming days. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And with that, we welcome in Locked On Browns host Spencer German. He also works for 92.3 The Fan, co-hosts a Saturday show with Earl the Pearl to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Spencer was in Berea the last couple of days for minicamp. How you doing today, Spence?
Can't hear him.
We have audio from Spencer on the internal side, but I can't actually hear Spencer.
Yeah, we're not either. It's not coming through the ISP
We see
system.
his audio levels moving.
That's my co-host every Saturday.
Spencer,
John Carroll guy.
refresh the link and come back in.
That's my guy, man.
We'll stall till Spencer's ready.
We do a good show. We have fun and we laugh about it because if you've been in calling in on radio shows, and so calling in guests is a big deal. You know, if you get some big names outside of the Morning Boys, Ken and Lima, we're the only guys that can get this guy to come on our show.
Oh, nice.
So that's a flex at 92.3 The Fan.
Yeah, it is a flex.
I come in, they be like, who on your guest list? Who, me? I got Jason Lloyd. I got Mary Kay. They be like, you? Yeah, me. Sure do.
That's gravitas. You bring Jason Lloyd onto the program.
We're going to see if this quick refresh works.
Boom!
Big doings.
All right, take two with Spencer. Spencer, give us a mic check.
You guys got me?
We got
There
you now.
we go.
Beautiful.
What's
Sometimes
up, bro?
You just got to refresh the computer.
Not much, guys. How you guys doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Hey, let's talk about the quarterbacks. Are you
let's cut to
sick
the
of that
chase, right?
yet?
No, I mean, listen, it's all in good fun. When you have a situation like this where it's 4 quarterbacks and they're framing it as an open competition, I don't know that it's truly going to be that when we get to training camp. I think they'll have their minds made up about certain things, but yeah, like it's all in good fun. It makes it an easy conversation. I do think, though, like there's other elements of this team that have been overshadowed by the quarterback competition, which I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about today as well.
Well, we're going to drill down on that, but first I gotta circle back. Is that skepticism or sarcasm when you say that they're going to have an open competition?
I just think, based off of what we've seen so far and through how the reps were handled at mandatory minicamp, I know Kevin Stefanski said, like, don't read too much into it. And there is some truth to that because this time of year, as you guys know, it's less about the results and more about, like, are they looking at the right places? Are they translating the playbook and the things they're doing in these meetings to the field? So I think everyone can wrap their heads around that. But I still think by the time we get to camp, like, we've talked so much, I know you guys have as well, about the idea that they really like Kenny Pickett. And so I think, like, they're going to open up camp with, like, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco being the guys that are getting most of the reps with the ones. Now, maybe Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel can change their minds with how they play in the preseason and if they do really good things in some of the joint practices that they like. But I think they're going to open up camp with a sort of an understanding of, like, where this thing sits. And by the end of it, I think it'll largely end up being one of those two guys that I mentioned taking the reins going into week 1.
Well, you mentioned 3 names. You did not mention Joe Flacco. What does that mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Flacco and Pickett were the two guys, obviously, who are the front runners. So
okay.
I think both of them. I think they have an understanding of, like, who those guys are, and they're like 1A and 1B, and then it's Sanders and it's Gabriel who are sort of following up the rear in terms of they gotta really work. They got work to do to get to the top of this depth chart, essentially.
Bro, good morning. How are you?
Good, Earl. What's up with you, man?
Man, I can't complain. This is funny, right?
Weird for you, right?
It is very weird. Yo, so me and you done had a bunch of conversations, and I have watched the voluntary OTAs. Then now you're watching mandatory minicamp, and you see everybody outside of Shedeur Sanders getting reps with the first team. And the optics of that, it will raise a lot of questions. At first, I was just kind of playing it cool. Okay, well, maybe this is part of the process. And now we done wrapped up pretty much the entire offseason program, and he was the only quarterback that didn't take any reps with the first team. Why do you think that was?
I just think right now they view him as somebody who has to continue to, I think he has things he's working on, and I think they view him as the guy who is the fourth man on this depth chart. They took. I know that people don't like reading into where they took these guys, and I know every time I bring up that Shedeur Sanders was a 5th-round pick, I get ridiculed in the YouTube comments of Locked On Browns because people are mad that keeps being part of the conversation. But the fact of the matter is, he is a 5th-round pick. He was the second quarterback taken by this team. And based off of Kevin Stefanski and what he said about Dillon Gabriel the day after he was drafted, based on what we know about this team's evaluation of him and the pre-draft process and the sort of secret meeting they had with him before the Colorado Pro Day, they really like Dillon Gabriel. So I think it's just a byproduct of they believed that Dillon Gabriel offers something that they like. They believe that the intangibles he has is something that they can use or that's something they can lean on for him to be a good quarterback at some point for this team. And so they wanted to see him in those settings. I also think they think he's maybe more ready for that. He is the more experienced of the two, and he has a lot more college football under his belt. So I understand why they did it that way. I was a little bummed we didn't get to see Shedeur take any reps with the ones and 11 on 11s. I thought maybe yesterday would be the day to do it. But Thursday ended up being more about getting Joe Flacco a look and actually giving him a chance to sort of throw with these guys before they broke for summer. And I felt like yesterday was kind of more of a I think they sort of showcased or showed their hand maybe more yesterday in terms of how they feel about these guys, where Flacco was first up, Pickett was next up, then Gabriel, then Shedeur. And that is how I sort of leave camp feeling like they at least view the depth chart of this team.
All right, so I got a follow-up to that before Jason go. So you said they had private meetings. They really like Dillon Gabriel a lot. Me personally, Spencer, I find it hard to believe that you've done it. We've done it on this show. Everybody has done breakdowns leading into the draft that of all the quarterbacks that was out there, that's not Shedeur Sanders, that you like Dillon Gabriel more than you did Jackson Dart, more than you did a Tyler Shuck. Me personally, I find that hard to believe. But let's say that they did that, right? And you and every other trusted reporter that we've talked to that have seen these quarterbacks play really have assessed that Shedeur Sanders looks better than Dillon Gabriel. It sounds like to me that the Cleveland Browns could be being a little stubborn because they did draft Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. And I bring that up because we talked about this on the Ultimate 216 show. Dillon Gabriel didn't have an issue with balls being batted down at the line of scrimmage in college, but yet that has shown to be a problem through the voluntary portion and the mandatory portion of camp. So because they drafted him there, do you think that he's going to get more of an opportunity even though the eye test is showing you something totally different?
I laugh, Earl, when you say stubborn because I'm just kind of thinking, like, this organization, stubborn? No, never. I mean, the organization that last year looked everybody in the eye and said, no, Deshaun Watson gives us the best chance to win. I watched 7 games of him looking like one of the worst quarterbacks of all time. But no, I think there probably is a little bit of stubbornness involved with this where they feel convinced that Dillon Gabriel can be a good quarterback in this league on some level, which is why they took him with the top 100 pick. Maybe they do view him as like a long-term backup, which, I still would argue taking a long-term backup in the 3rd round with the top 100 pick was questionable. I think everyone felt that way after the pick was made. And so, yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of that involved, and I think that will sort of show itself at training camp too, because I'm going to assume that he's going to be first up in this conversation and first up with reps when it comes to actually working in with the ones like he was this past week and showcasing what he brings to the table. So I think there are certainly shortcomings for him. I will say, like, in context, Shedeur looked good, which is what we would want and would hope for, but he also was doing it against the 3s, the 4s, and at times the 2s. And so I think the positive for him is all the reps that he got, no matter which group he was with, he was the most consistent of the quarterbacks in terms of he consistently was making the throws, looked really good doing it. I also think he had the most like head-turning throws of the entire minicamp, where every day it seemed like he was making another one that made you kind of go, oh, okay. I think Gabriel, his biggest struggles came when he was with the ones, and obviously we haven't seen Shedeur go with that group yet. So there's still sort of some mystery there as to what that kind of looks like. But based on what the organization has sort of signaled, I think they're going to slow play it with Shedeur and probably Dillon, but But I think Dillon's going to get more of those reps because they clearly feel strongly enough that they wanted to take him as early as they did.
Spence, we opened the show talking about Nick Chubb going to Houston. Just wondering your thoughts on Jay makes the argument they should have brought, and Earl makes the argument they should have brought him back and give him one more chance here in Cleveland. How did you see that playing out, and what did you think about his goodbye?
Yeah, I thought early in the offseason, bringing him back made way too it just made too much sense, right? Like organization coming off a 3-14 year. The Deshaun Watson, the dark cloud that is the Deshaun Watson situation looming over this whole organization. And it's the easiest PR move in the world, right, Jason? To just bring back a fan favorite like that and somebody that fans can rally around and get excited about and maybe see his comeback story continue. So I felt like it was going to happen early in the offseason. Like you talk about stubbornness. Like I was so stubborn that I thought it was going to happen that I sort of ignored the signs early on. But then I think when we got to the draft and you saw them take the 2 running backs, and then like they kind of doubled down with the restructure of the Jerome Ford contract, I thought that sort of painted the picture of, he's not coming back. And so we've had time to sort of come to grips with this. I know that doesn't make it necessarily easier for some Browns fans to swallow. I thought his goodbye was truly heartfelt. I think Nick has always been pretty candid when it comes to his feelings about he keeps a lot close to the vest, as you know, but I thought he's always been very candid about like his feelings for Cleveland, his, love for this fan base and the city and all that. And, it stinks that it ended this way. A couple years ago, I think most people envisioned Nick Chubb being a Brown for life, but the knee injury sort of derailed all that. So I guess what I would say is the one sort of saving grace or silver lining here is Quinshon Judkins looked really, really good this week. And I know it was just helmets and shorts and jerseys, but I think that even though Nick Chubb's not going to be there, and I know there will always be people box score watching to see what he brings to the table and if he's able to bounce back and be the Nick Chubb of old. But if Quinshon comes out and puts up big numbers, or if he's like at least, has a 1,000-yard season sort of sharing time with Dylan Sampson, I think people will not forget Nick Chubb, but they'll sort of be able to reconcile from the fact that he's not part of this organization anymore, and I think everyone will be okay.
Yeah, I think what you said makes perfect sense. It sounds a lot like how Jason approaches it. He had time to kind of come to grips with it. It did look like all the signs were there, especially after the draft. I'm just wondering, in a vacuum, and you can like or hate this draft class. We always say time will tell. But when I hear it said out loud, it always strikes me. The Cleveland Browns took 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Did you see
their offense last year?
Oh, I saw it. I saw 3. It. But guess what? If you're really lucky, only 3 of them can be on the field at the same time, and more likely it's going to be 2 if you're really lucky. It's just you're blinded by
Have you seen this team draft?
Yeah, I saw it this year too.
You need all the darts.
Right in line.
You need all the darts you can find.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? Ignore the interior, and I know their number 1 pick was an interior defensive lineman. That's great. But ignore your offensive line at your own peril. See Philadelphia Eagles and compare their line to ours. What's winning in the NFL right now? Well, the Eagles are so good at what they do, the league's trying to change the rules to stop them. And our offensive line is getting older and more banged up, and there are question marks all over the damn thing. And we're drafting 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs.
Speaking of question marks, we all know outside of Jerry Jeudy, there's a huge question mark at wide receiver. I've been told that Jamari Thrash has been impressive with the opportunities given to him. I know last year during this particular time, him being a late 5th-round pick last year, he was struggling to hold on to the ball during rookie camps and mandatory mini camps last year. I've heard that he's pretty much damn near caught everything that has came his way. We know Cedric Tillman has missed some time. Michael Woods has missed some time. Deontay Johnson just showed up. What has Jamari Thrash done in your eyes to stand out and earn more opportunities in this wide receiving room?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of out of necessity that he's found a role for himself with that first team in the slot. They don't really have that position addressed right now, and so he's kind of that first man up getting looks there. I do think, to your point, Earl, there was a few drops that I saw from him early on in the offseason program, but I do think he's made a concerted effort to work on his ability to catch the ball, because last year that was an issue for him. He had a really nice catch in the end zone. Dillon Gabriel hit him on like a slot fade, and he went up with like both hands and pulled it in with a corner sort of in his face. That was really nice. So I think there's definitely been some improvement there. But to your point though, like this wide receiver room does not inspire much confidence. Like it's Jerry Jeudy and sort of like the Island of Misfit Toys from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Like Cedric Tillman is I think Cedric Tillman has a lot of promise. He's shown some things, but can he do it consistently? That's the big thing for him. Deontay Johnson, is he even going to make this roster? Is he going to stay sort of on that straight and narrow and really disprove the narratives about him like he talked about this week? We'll see. But even he's not a slot guy. So I still think, and I asked Andrew Berry after the draft, I think it was like the last question he got was me sort of saying, hey, is wide receiver still, to go back to your point, Jay, like they ignored wide receiver, they ignored offensive line. And I was curious, like, is wide receiver, is that a room that's still a work in progress? And he gave me the classic GM answer of, our entire roster is still a work in progress back then. But I think after seeing this group on the field and some of the guys that are just rotating between the two fields and going back and forth, and a lot of undrafted rookies and, late round picks from previous years, I think there still is a move to be made there. I'd be surprised if this room right now, it looks exactly the same when we get to the end of August and they're cutting this roster down going into week 1.
Yeah, I mean, Lord knows they didn't have enough. They didn't have success drafting wide receivers in the 3rd round. I'm not sure why we think their undrafted wide receivers are going to stick. And Deontay Johnson is the wild card to me. We did a story yesterday on Channel 3 about Deontay Johnson, and when you read it out loud, it sounds like, what the hell are we doing here? He was on 4 teams in the span of 9 months last year. He started with Pittsburgh, traded to Carolina. He's on 4 different rosters. And I think he's a wild card. I think the talent's there, but are we going to be able to get anything out of him? And that's, to me, that's the big question.
It's a really good question, Jay. And what I found interesting was, he says in his press conference this week that he thinks he's misunderstood or his fallout last year and what went on was kind of misconstrued and his character's been knocked because of it. But I just think there's nothing worse, and this is across all sports, I think, than being labeled like a quitter or somebody who doesn't try hard. And like those are all things that he can control. And he said it was only 1 year. He said it was last year, and that was where he didn't enter a game for the Ravens. And so I would have liked a little more clarity on like why that happened. He's saying it's a misunderstanding, okay. But even going back to his last year in Pittsburgh, like he was getting criticized for not making blocks on certain plays, and there was one play in particular, I believe it was against the Browns, where he like didn't dive on a loose ball that was a fumble, and he got ripped for that. So like shaking that narrative about yourself is a hard thing to do. He says he's out to do that exact thing and prove people wrong, but I just think there's a lot that goes into being labeled that, and it starts with your actions. So I was kind of perplexed by him just being like, it's all a misunderstanding. Like, you put yourself in the situation by refusing to enter a game. Like, as soon as that happens and you're labeled a quitter, like that's on you at that point. So we'll see what it all looks like, but there's a lot of questions there for sure.
Spencer, the guy I most wish could have a conversation with Deontay is Chris Carter, because I love the fact that you mentioned it's really hard to overcome that bad first impression. And Chris Carter came into the league with all-world talent at Ohio State. He ended up being cut by the Eagles, and Buddy Ryan famously said all he does is catch touchdowns. And on the surface, that sounds like, okay, well, give me one of those guys. But Chris, in having the chance to sort of do the autopsy of the first half of his career, or first couple of years, actually examined himself, and he had some other off-the-field demons that he addressed and worked on, and we all know what happened after that. A Hall of Fame career ensued. I'm not saying Deontay Johnson has Hall of Fame talent, but I think he has talent. And hopefully the Browns had the conversation with him, the sort of come-to-Jesus conversation, and said, look, pal, no, your phone wasn't ringing. We're your last chance here. We're your life raft. Don't sink. Make this thing work. And I wish Chris Carter or someone like that could get to him, because I think there's something there, and the Browns are going to need it if they're going to have any chance to win games this year.
And yet he didn't go to OTAs.
I know. It's just like,
I don't want to have the whole
you're not
OTA
getting off to a great
again.
start here.
I don't want to have the whole OTA debate again, but if you
There's certain guys that have to go.
If you're hanging on to your career by a thread,
you're there.
And you don't go?
Yeah, that's on you.
A little weird.
Jason, I'm with you. I was surprised by that. He said he clarified why with the coaching staff and all that, so okay. And yes, it's voluntary. But when people were outraged that Myles Garrett wasn't there, I was like, okay, whatever. But he was the one that I was more concerned about. And I know, Earl, you can vouch for this because we've talked about it. But, yeah, that was perplexing. And you're right, Jason, Jay. Like, he I don't know. Like, he had no calls. Nobody was calling. Like, this is your last chance to, save your career. So you better kind of figure it out and get on the right path.
And there are a million cautionary tales.
One last thing, because I know
at that
Spencer,
position.
I know you got to go. It's Father's Day weekend. We just lost Nick Chubb. You watched his whole career here. What team, in your opinion, was Nick Chubb the daddy of the most?
Oh, man. This is a great question.
We're going to do this tomorrow.
Look, he averaged 5.1 per carry, all of them.
Yeah, so
it didn't really matter.
Would you look at it and say Nick Chubb was their daddy?
I feel like I remember a lot of highlights against the Bengals, so maybe the Bengals. I mean, there's so many good ones, though. I mean, you could even just say the Raiders, just based off that game he had against them where he only carried the ball three times. Had over 100 yards and two touchdowns. Like, he didn't even have to do anything else at that point. Like he already owned him after that. So
that's a fact.
Be great, bro.
Spencer, great job, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Always happy to do it anytime, and enjoy and have a good weekend. All
you too.
Thanks,
you too.
buddy.
Good insight. Really good insight. I like him a lot. You got a good co-host there, man.
That's my guy. We have fun on Saturday mornings.
I bet.